Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Welcome, dear friends, to Kardec Radio. It's a special day, 11 years. 11 years together, growing, learning, sharing, and praying as well. What a joy for us that God allowed us to create this space. He created it, and we're just side by side, helping in some way, but the directions certainly come from on high. There's much to be grateful for, and it's the light of Spiritism on earth, the light of love. And you're invited to join us with questions, with comments. And today we have a very, very special program because we're going to talk about a man who became the model of Spiritism, the Spiritist. I know he's not only a Spiritist, he's a spirit living in this universe, Chico Xavier. So many books, so many examples. His life is certainly a life to be emulated. On June 30th, 2002, 20 years ago, Chico Xavier discarnated in one of the happiest days in Brazil. And he predicted, as he wanted and he wished, that he would cross over when Brazil would be the happiest. It was the World Cup. Brazil had just won it soon after Chico Xavier was free, flying high, 92 years of age, more than 70 years of dedication to humanity. And today, he is here with us, bringing what we need the most, healing. You and I, humanity on earth needs to heal. After these years of challenges, God must believe we're strong to withstand the current times. If he believes so, so shall we. And in order to unfold this feeling of healing, no better than Chico Xavier, a man who went through everything and yet was always happy, was always joyful and grateful for life. I know a little bit, but there are friends of Chico who know much more. And we are very honored to have here with us a host at Kardec Radio, an international speaker, a wonderful, loving medium from Brazil, from a neighboring city to Chico's birth city. Geraldo Lemos Neto, our friend Geraldinho, is here with us. In his 21 years of friendship with Chico Xavier, though young, he never forgot the examples, the direction, and now he continues to keep the flame of Chico's modeling life to all of us. So let us welcome our dear friend Geraldinho with us. Thank you, Geraldo, for joining us on such a special day. How are you?
Hello, Vanessa. Congratulations to you and all of our friends, collaborators at the Kardec Radio. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you,
A
Geraldo.
very special day.
Yes, it's Independence Day in America, and you have your heart here too, right?
Right, that's correct.
And isn't that true that Chico Xavier himself loved the United States as
Yeah,
well?
very true. He went to the United States in 2 occasions, in 1965 and in 1966. And he also published a book in English by the New York Library. The book is called The Word of the Spirit, that was launched in May 17th, 1966. And he wrote letters to my family, stating that it was very important to collaborate to the United States because it is very, very important to speak in English and to bring the Spiritist doctrine in English to all the world.
Yes. And
So you're congratulations for your 11th year at Kardec Radio. And I know this is a very special task and a very blessed one.
yes, we are together in this, and you're helping us make spiritism known in the world. And we know that Geraldo Chico Xavier was beyond a specific religion, or he was a humanitarian by heart, right? Recently, there was a documentary in Brazil we've watched. It's not in English yet. Hopefully, one day it will. But you participated, and it shows Chico Xavier, a man of love. Would you like to talk about that?
Yes, I do. Chico Xavier, it, he was above all kinds of separations, all kinds of things that separate us. And I would like to talk about this because Chico Xavier, for me, was the friend of Jesus. And I remember the Gospel of John, chapter 15, versicles 12 to 17, where we can read, "Greater love has no one than to lay down his life for his friends." At that time, Jesus said to, his, to his disciples, "This is my commandment, love one another, and as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than to lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you." This is very important. You are my friends if you do what I command you, said Jesus. And then he also said, "I no longer call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing. I call you friends, because I have made known to you all that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you that you should go and that you should bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain. Whatever then you ask the Father in my name, he will grant you. This is what I command you, love one another." And for me, this gospel passage is the very picture of Chico Xavier's life. All his 92 years of age, in his last incarnation here in Minas Gerais, Brazil, from Pedro Leopoldo, where he lived until his 49th birthday, until Uberaba, when at the age of 92 he passed away. And in his life, he always worked. First, 17 years dedicating himself to the Catholic Church, having the role of a teacher to the children at the church. And then after that, at the 17th age, he initiated his work with Spiritism, with mediumship, with Jesus Christ our Lord. And from that time on June of 1927 until his death in June 2002, 75 years of dedication, renunciation of all kinds of blessings in the material world, dedicating himself to love everyone that was suffering, that has a heavy burden in their shoulders, so that he could help them to have faith, to have a time to heal. And this is the most important theme of this afternoon. We must learn with Chico Xavier how to heal our sufferings, our pain, our inner pain, and see how he deal with it. Because he also had lots of pain in his life, material pain in his body, lots of illness, also many problems in his family, also many challenges in the Spiritist movement. But he overcome everything to be a servant of Jesus and to be a friend of Jesus, teaching us the words of the gospel, the words of the good news that came from Jesus' mouth to show us the pathway to the truth and to love. And it's unbelievable that we have now 20 years facing Chico Xavier's passing away. And it was kind of a very difficult time for everyone, because we were accustomed to have him here, and physically we were accustomed to listen to him in every kind of troubles and problems that we faced. And after his death, we feel that the work was in our hands, in our disposition to continue. All his friends, everyone that could take contact with his work and his life, was called upon to be a part of this great movement to restoration of Christianism, that is Spiritism, the Consoler. So Chico Xavier, a spirit of choice, freed himself from the bonds of earthly life, leaving us with the feeling of orphanhood and an unprecedented existential emptiness. We had all grown accustomed to his loving presence, showering us with affection and consolation, enlightenment and hope. Wherever he was sought for relief from pain, thinking about the wounds of the soul, instructing our spiritual ignorance, and unveiling the renewed message of Christ. Our divine master, Jesus Christ, was present with Chico Xavier life. It was as if Jesus himself were again amongst us, speaking again of peace and union, concord and resignation, inviting us to work for the common good and at the service of self-improvement. Chico, like no one in recent centuries, gave his life in resignation and love for his divine friend, Jesus Christ, dispensing with all the blessings of the earth to keep the true heavenly gifts in his heart. No matter how hard he tried, insisting on diminishing or extinguishing himself, his proper life. Like any of us, he couldn't hide his own light, with which shone glorious, like a crystalline mirror reflecting the greater light of God. As in Jesus' farewell speech, love one another as I have loved you, Chico Xavier experienced this teaching, telling us without articulate words, as you have witnessed to me, my example, so do you. To love is to give your life for a friend, and there is no better friend to our ways on earth than Jesus Christ. The love of the disciple of Christ must extend to his brother on the journey. It must be so great that he is willing to give himself and to show his love towards the ones that is on the heavy burden of earth, suffering with anxiety, with pain, with trials. And so that we must love, and love demands self-sacrifice. It demands surrender. And the Lord invites us to be his true disciples by placing our lives in his hands. He invited us to die to the ego and to live for universal fraternity, so that we love each other with the same love he left us. The greatest commandment of Master Jesus, the Master of the Masters, for all of us is this love, and it can only subsist if it produces more love, a love that will make us also worthy of being loved. That was the message of Chico Xavier in his whole life, in Pedro Leopoldo first, and then in Uberaba. And because of his work with the people, with the spiritist centers that he founded two of them in Pedro Leopoldo, the Centro Espírita Luiz Gonzaga and the Grupo Espírita Meimei. And after that, in Uberaba, he founded two also, the Comunhão Espírita Cristã de Uberaba, and then the Grupo Espírita da Prece, his last spiritist center. And I had the blessing to have him with a friend, like a family member, a close relationship. I had the blessing to be part of his uh, life during 1981 until his passing away in 2002. And I must say that I'm a testimony. I have a testimony to say and to tell everyone that Chico Xavier himself, not only at the Spiritist Center, psychographing or attending all the meetings towards the ones in need, but also in his home all the time. He was the one that showed us love, the love of Jesus, as a true friend of Jesus. That's one thing I can say to you. 20 years has passed since June 2002. I can say that the Chico Xavier for sure is the apostle of the Consoler, and he returned to the greater fatherland. We can attest to yet another extraordinary feat to materialize on the face of the earth. The rain of books from his mediumistic work did not cease with his death. Until the date of his discarnation in June 30th, 2002, the Spiritist publishers had published 439 books containing the messages and revelations that, that their mediumistic faculties had channeled for the benefit of the suffering and afflicted humanity. Thirsty for the pure water of the inexhaustible source of consolation, and hungry for the divine bread of higher knowledge. Psychographics, psychophonies, clairvoyances, clairaudiences, intuitive answers in interviews, fraternal assistance, and charitable works were the vehicles that brought us the most complete work in Portuguese in history, both in terms of the quantity of books and the quality of its contents, capable of being classified in all genres and subgenres of literature. And now, after 20 years of Chico Xavier's passing, we have 537 books. And that's amazing. I remember the words of our dear friend Martins Peralva that used to say to us that Chico Xavier's work was a cyclopean, encyclopedic work destined to span the centuries to come. From his departure from the physical world in Uberaba until today, therefore, Chico Xavier's production had never stopped. Spiritist publishers linked to the responsibility of guarding their unpublished files or carrying out new compilations of their work have already published 98 more books, new books, in an approximate average of 5 new books every year, almost the same as when Chico Xavier was incarnated. On May the 7th, our publishing house, Vinha de Luz Editora, of Belo Horizonte, Brazil, launched its most recent book. It's called The Candida Missão. And it was at the Casa de Chico Xavier in Pedro Leopoldo, the home of Chico Xavier, the place that Vanessa knows, that it was the place that Chico Xavier lived there. And it became a center of reference to his works and life. And in the 7th of May, the day that marked his 95 years of contact with Spiritism in this incarnation, we had the pleasure and the joy to launch his 537th book. And we now are left to meditate on the greatness of this feat. What message does greater spirituality send us with this realization? 98 books after his own death. That's the message of eternal life. That's the message that we all are immortal spirits. And even though we can leave the body, the human body here on earth, we can and may stay on the job of Jesus, stay on the doings of Christianism, of Spiritism. And we feel like Chico Xavier is still working with everyone that is attached to the message of the Consoler, and the one that Jesus himself told us that he would send to earth, not only to console us, reminding us of all the words of the gospel that he was saying 2,000 years ago, but also the one that would explain to us all the causes of life, the causes of sufferings, the reasons to heal, to explain to us the reality of afterlife, the reality of reincarnation, the reality of evolution of the spirit, that we all are immortal spirits that are in the path to our own evolution towards the light, towards God, towards the truth. And also the reality of the plurality of worlds inhabited all over the universe, that we are not alone in this earth. I remember now when I got the chance to interview Chico Xavier in July of 1987. Sorry, the day was July 17th. And Chico Xavier was eager to tell me something about his beginning of the work with Emmanuel. And so that he asked me to interview him. And this interview was first published in the Spiritist Review of the União Espírita Mineira, that is called the Espírita Mineira. And after that, it was included in our Chico biography, Chico Xavier Mandato de Amor, the love mandate, Chico Xavier love mandate. It was published in 1992. And in that interview, the dear medium and friend revealed to me that the first task for which he was born was to receive only 30 books from the greater spirituality through the mediumship of psychography. Reached that goal very fast, very early, with the publication of the book Volta Bocage in 1947. The goal was doubled to 60 books by the instructions of Emmanuel. And Chico also very early reached that goal, exactly when he was moving from Pedro Leopoldo to Uberaba in 1959. And that 60th book was Evolução em Dois Mundos by the spirit of André Luiz, Evolution in Two Words. And then he arrived in Uberaba. He was almost close to finish his work at the Ministry of Agriculture, where he was serving for 28 years. And he thought that maybe in Uberaba he would have a very calm life. And so that he asked Emmanuel, I have already completed twice the goal that I was committed to here on earth, so that I can retire. And then Emmanuel told him, no, Chico, you are still very young. You are just 49 years old. And Uberaba is a new city. You are going to have new friends, and probably you're going to found new spiritist centers so that we can continue to work. Why we can't extend the goal to 100 books? And so that Chico Xavier agreed to this new task. And a new objective was revealed to reach 100 books, also easily surpassed 10 years later in 1969 with the launch of the book Poetas Redivivos, Revived Poets. That also was a commemoration of his first book about the Parnassus of beyond, the Parnaso de Além Túmulo. And then Chico again thought and talked with Emmanuel. My task is already completed 3 times, and I have 10 books in more than 3 times the goal, so that now I can retire. And then Emmanuel revealed to him a very new thing. From then on, he said, his life and his body were expropriated in favor of continuing the expansion of the Consoler on earth through the books of his mediumistic work. And Chico was very surprised for that, because this was a command by our Lord Jesus Christ, that his own body were being expropriated in favor of the Spiritist message. And he accepted it. And so that when Chico Xavier passed away in June 30th, 2002, he left us with 439 books. And even now, 20 years later, we have 537 books of his beloved, his blessed mediumistic work with Jesus Christ and the Spiritism. I can say it's no longer the multiplication of loaves and fish to satisfy the hunger of the multitude, but it was the multiplication of the books of the Spiritist doctrine, the Spiritism, materializing the Comforter promised by Christ himself, so that many other things that Jesus did and could be written again, informing us that not even the word, everything could, every books of the word could contain the doings of Christ, and that all the books could be written about his presence amongst us. The task continued and will continue, I'm sure for that, for a long time to come, until we all understand the revelation of truth that it contains, raising Jesus, the divine master, from the world of the dead again to the hearts and minds of the people, of the afflicted one, consoling them as they console us, and also helping them as they are helping us, consoling and comforting all our pains, but above all, enlightening us and instructing us in the undying truth of the divine laws. And that's why Chico Xavier is so important. He is a friend of Jesus Christ, our dear Lord, our divine Lord. And he materialized on earth all the life of Christ, again, by his own doings, teaching us what is the pathway to reach, the pathway to truth and the pathway to love. Chico Xavier demonstrated it to every one of us. And we must take this as a very important treasure, a treasure that no one can take it from us, a treasure of spirituality that must be the seal of the new world, the world that is soon coming to earth, the regeneration time that we all hope to be one day, sooner than later. And of course, we are willing to bring here to our own living. That's Chico Xavier. And I hope everyone that are listening to Kardec Radio, a very special work that brings us to this reality in America and all the English-speaking world. I hope that you all seek this very truth and also this important knowledge to understand the pace of the Consoler here on earth.
Geraldinho, I know you know many cases in which Chico helped so many people. Would you like to share a case or two?
Yes, it was a time, every time that we went to Uberaba and was again uh, accompanying Chico in his work, we could see wonderful things, wonderful not only sayings of Chico, but mostly doings. Of course, you all know that the most important role that Chico Xavier had was to demonstrate that the spirit is not dead, that after the passing here of the human body, the spirit's continuing living in the spiritual world, so that all his meetings on Friday night and on Saturday night, meetings that were from 8 p.m. until the dawn, like 3, 4 a.m., and where Chico Xavier received a like 10 messages comforting families that had passing away of a dear relative, and it was uh, so touching moments that we could testify. He was there, uh, receiving the spirits of those spirits to their beloved ones that were suffering about their death. And the details, so many details, the identification of each spirit, of each personality, what they talked about in the week before his death or her death. What was the relationship of this spirit with their family? And what kind of accident? How was the accident that took him or her to the spiritual world? And we all would cry with those families. And I must testify that most of those families were not spiritists. Most of them were from another religion, like Catholics, like uh, Protestants, or even Jews, or other kinds of religion schools that or backgrounds that they had. And no matter that, they were there to attest the reality of the messages that they were receiving. And they cried of joy. They cried to see and to feel that their beloved ones were living after death in the spiritual world. So Chico Xavier was that bridge that was built to put those two words in contact. And of course, I saw many other cases of mediumship of Chico Xavier. He had a knowledge of the past like no other, and he could see our past lives, and he could relate our sufferings with past existence. And I remember Wanda, and because she had a problem, and the pork meat was contaminated with a organism that is called cysticercosis or cysticerco, and she got a disease that was named cysticercosis, and these organisms were living inside her body and were traveling through uh, her veins and the system with her arteries, and they would come out, and she was feeling too much pain. And there was a thing also that every time she got to the hospital to have those organism taken out, uh, all kinds of anesthesias would not uh, be effective, and she would wake in in the operation room and feeling all the pain of the operation. And Chico Xavier, through the spirit of Bezerra de Menezes, Dr. Bezerra, was the one that made a medicine that stopped that. And all the organisms that were living inside her body, after taking the medicine that Chico Xavier received by the spirit of Dr. Bezerra, were frozen or crystallized. And then Chico explained to her and to her family that in past lives. She was a woman of the French uh, court that got to know an American farmer, and this American farmer also was her husband here, my uh, also cousin Paulo. And then at that time, they got married in Paris and went back to the United States, where he had many farms uh, with slaves, with black slaves. And Chico revealed that because of jealousy, she was a very jealousy a woman, a jealousy uh, wife, and because of that, she would persecute all female slaves and make them suffer. And some of the sufferings was very harsh that she imposed to those female slaves. And that's why in this life, in the 20th century, she was passing this trial to feel in her own body all the sufferings that she made on the female slaves in past lives in the United States. And but in this time, she was a woman of faith that could overcome all kinds of sufferings with the help of Chico Xavier. And I can say that she was a very devoted woman to spiritism, to mediumship, and she was always teaching us to have faith, to overcome the pain, to overcome illness, that we must have our faith in our Lord Jesus Christ and in God, and with them we could overcome all difficulties, all trials. And Chico Xavier also used to present her to his fellow friends as a woman that was an example of faith, because she was cured by the faith. And this was one case in my family that I could see and I could live with it.
Wow, that's amazing. And Geraldo, through so many thousands and millions of people actually came across Chico Xavier, got healed by a message, just by being near him. But I remember people said that he used to give passes on people too.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. It was not often, because his work with was the psychography,
Yeah.
and also after he read all the psychographic work that he received, he would be the one to talk to the people after the reunion of the Spiritist Center was closed. So the people was every time getting online to talk to Chico, and he would talk to everyone. But in his home, he would give the passes to the ones in need. And it's curious because I just got to know this week. I was at by WhatsApp giving sending messages by the anniversary of 20 years of Chico Xavier's passing. And the woman that used to own my home, uh, she received also my message by WhatsApp. And her name is Carmen, and Carmen Duchfort. And she told me, Geraldinho, I always loved Chico Xavier. And one time I was living in Formiga, my hometown in the interior of the state of Minas Gerais, and Chico Xavier was there. And I got to sit beside him. And he was a so loving person. And he talked about so many important things in my life that up to this date, I remember this only time that I saw him on flesh. And at that time, after we talked, he got up and gave me a pass. And and up to this date, I remember how how well I felt with the energies that came from Chico Xavier's hand.
Wow, what a feeling.
What a feeling.
What a
I
feeling.
have also one case very interesting because it also regards to the materialization mediumship that he had. A very close friend of ours that is Nona Silva. We call her Nona. She's more than 90 years old now, but at that time she was a young spiritist, and she used to go to Pedro Leopoldo and Uberaba to see Chico, who was a very close friend of hers. And uh, she asked Chico in his home to have a pass. And then Chico uh, put both of them in his own bed. And but first he asked, I want you to close your eyes and do not open them. No matter what happened, do not open your eyes. And then uh, he asked Nona to make the prayer, and he himself started the pass. But as Nona was feeling the energy of Chico in herself and in her companion at that time, Nona started to listen to something that was reaching the floor and also reaching the bed. And so she could not resist to open her eyes. And what she saw was the materialization of roses in the seal of the room, and the roses would fall to the floor and fall all around them. And the roses, they could also smell the roses perfume. And she was very amazed that she explained. She she uh, she said to Chico, Chico, what is going on? What is that, Chico? Explain to us. What is that? And Chico was kind of very, very serious, and he kept his eyes closed and told Nona, Nona, close your eyes. I'm not seeing anything. Nothing is happening, Nona. Close your eyes. So that he would not explain to her what was going on. But she saw the materialization of roses. It was a physical manifestation of the spirit.
What a humble heart, because so many people do so little and talk about it for ages.
Yes,
Wow, it's like the opposite of vanity.
it's the opposite. He was always trying to, as I
Hi.
told you before, trying to be one of us and not being special. He was not a mentor. He was not a guide of anyone. He was just a brother, a fellow companion of us, and never in the position of, a higher spirit or a higher mentor or even in mediumship. He was just, a simple medium. I remember, I recall in his home, we were talking like things of, the everyday life. And then suddenly he would take the paper that was wrapping the bread. He would take a pen or a pencil and start to psychograph in
Wow.
front of us in in such a natural moment that we just stayed silent to wait the closing of this message.
Wow.
He was very humble. I
Very
remember
humble.
also a case that was told us by our dear friend that inaugurated and founded the Lar Espírita André Luiz, the Spiritist Home André Luiz of Petrópolis, Mr. Susana Maia Mouzinho, because Chico Xavier would also have the mediumship of externing uh, all kinds of roses, perfumes, or ether perfume. And sometimes his hand would,
Like
I
exhale.
don't know how,
So,
and Mr. Susanna asked him, Chico, she asked,
okay, we're waiting for the transmission to normalize on Geraldinho's side. Meanwhile, dear friends, Chico was a man, he tried to be just like us, but he was extraordinary. That doesn't mean he should not be a model to be emulated. On the contrary, and Geraldinho is back here with us.
yeah, did you did you did you listen until what point? Not
No, 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 no. We
okay.
have to go back because
All
you're
right.
talking about Mozinho
Yes,
and the part that the perfume exhaled from
exhaled
his.
from Chico's hand,
Yeah.
and she asked him, Chico, tell me, what do you feel when those kind of phenomena uh,
Happen.
happen with you? And he humbly said to her, I I feel ashamed.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I remember other scholars in Spiritism telling about how humility became the key to Chico Xavier's legacy and accomplishment, right? And it
And,
goes to the
and this,
passage of Paul and Stephen. You remember when a guy wanted to know his tricks, like the talisman, and he said, it's selflessness and humility. And Chico Xavier is all about that.
all about that. He was not about ego, never, never. He was always about loving each other and collectively showing us that we must act, feel, and think collectively as a one fraternal world.
Wow, it's amazing. So, for us at this time on earth, a question that came to my mind is We're talking about time to heal, the pandemic still like, being dissolved. What would it be for Chico Xavier to live at this time? Have you ever thought about this, Geraldo? Based on your experience of his life, the much that you know about him, what would he tell us at this time? Because so many people are stressed and tired and anxious. What would you say that Chico would probably say and do at this time?
I think that he would say to us to keep the faith, to understand that everything has a reason, and to accept it. It's very important that we accept all kinds of sufferings, all kinds of trials, because we must know that we deserve to be on earth, and we deserve uh, to pass all kinds of trials and all kinds of sufferings and pains. In one way, is the pathway to our own evolution. So I think Chico Xavier's word would be resignation, would be acceptation of everything, accept, but maintaining the flame of the faith in God, in Jesus, that everything passes. All kinds of pain are transitory pain, and they teach us some things. They teach us to overcome ourselves, all kinds of problems that our spirit has from other lives and from this life here on earth. And secondly, I would think and I would say that Chico Xavier would double his work to comfort everyone, to be present in the spirit center. I don't think he would close the doors to the suffering ones. No, I would think that he would go to the homes himself, like he used to do, like every Saturday afternoon. He would go to the most distant places to give a little hope, to give a little love to the ones in need. And also during the week, especially at night, he would go out from his home in Uberaba towards to different homes, the most needed ones in distant places, to visit a elderly, to visit one that was suffering some kind of difficult illness. He would go to the penitentiary. He would go to the hospitals. So Chico Xavier was a person of action. He was not never a person that would sit and wait and see. He was a person of action. I would think that he would double his efforts to comfort everyone.
Wow, that's amazing. And no matter what he went through, he never stopped. On
Yeah.
the contrary, right? No matter the
No
disease,
matter. You
situation.
see, you see, I remember that every uh, Christmas time, the day before Christmas, he would go to Goiânia, the capital city of the state of Goiás, to the place that was a home for the Hanseníacs. How do you say it in English?
Yeah,
Hanseníanos? Yeah,
yeah, it's like the leper, right?
lepers. Yeah, and he would embrace everyone. He would kiss everyone, and of course, most of the people are afraid of this personal contact. But Chico was never afraid. He would embrace them, he would hug them, he would kiss them in the face, in the mouth, in the cheek, in the hands, and everyone was so happy and so full of joy of his presence. Every Christmas time, Chico was in Guyana visiting this place, the colony of the lepers.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So it's a lot of hope for us. So faith, hope, good works, humility,
Yeah,
right?
and and for us, I think the great message that Chico Xavier lived through his life is acceptance of the kind of life we have, of the kind of troubles, of the kind of pain, of the kind of difficulties and trials that everyone has. Because everyone here on earth has some kind of problems to deal with. And Chico would also every time tell us be faithful, be patient, everything passes. Maintain the flame of our faith in God that is healing us every day, that is with us every day.
That's it. So we got our fair share celebrating 11 years of Kardec Radio with Chico Xavier and the healing that he brings to us, because it's all about this balance. When you talk about this acceptance and the faith, it's really another way of living that we need to learn. So it's good that everyone spends their time here at Kardec Radio. If you want more information about Chico, there are more programs. You can go to YouTube or Facebook in our playlists, and you see lots of works done by Geraldinho here at Kardec Radio when he talked extensively about Chico in greater details for hours and hours. Right, Geraldo?
Right. Yes. It's To Know Spiritism
To know
uh,
spirits.
playlist.
Yeah. So here we have an opportunity also to study the works that he left, many of his books, programs after programs, several different hosts addressing it all. So, dear friends, let us extend our gratitude to God, to Jesus, to Chico, but to Geraldo for bringing to us this moment of reflection and reassurance that the pathway is of God to God, from God always. Right,
Oh,
Geraldo? A final
right.
message for us to wrap up?
Well, thank you for having me, Vanessa. It's always a pleasure, a blessing. You are a very important friend that lives in our hearts and minds every day. You, your family, your blessed family. And I hope all of our collaborators at Kardec Radio also be embraced for this important date, 11th year of Kardec Radio. God bless you all, and Jesus certainly are blessing you every day from 11 years ago and to the years to come.
Thank you, Geraldo. Thank you, friends. We wish everyone a lovely day and a lot of hope that the healing is from within. Thank you, friends, and we hope to see you later today in our special online spiritual care.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Bye.
Gerard.